Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library. I'm here today with my March wrap-up and a little teeny tiny April TBR. I am shocked by how many books I read this month. I read 9 books. 9 books, that's insane. That's not me. I'm lucky if I get 5. But let's just say middle grade March helped, so this will be my middle grade March wrap-up as well. So that helped a little bit. But yeah, I can't believe it. So we'll start with my middle grade books that I finished in the month of March. First one was Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crowe. Loved it. That's just enough said. I heard somebody say this is like Harry Potter but not Harry Potter, and I didn't really understand it till I read it, and I completely agree. It's like Harry Potter but not Harry Potter. You get this magical world. You get this saving this young girl on her, was it 11th birthday? This mystery to it, these challenges. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Pick it up. I don't care. Just do it. It's awesome. The next one I finished is The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I don't remember what I gave this. 3 stars maybe. It was fine. I liked the premise. This robot lands on this island, and it's a very, the more it interacts with its surrounding, the more it learns, so it becomes this very intelligent robot that works, or becomes friends with nature, basically. It was very sweet. It was fine. I enjoyed it. It didn't keep me super engaged in it, I guess. It felt very simple, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know the words. It was fine. It was fine. I think Riley will still really like it. I stole it off her shelf. She did catch me. And the last one I have is Crossing Ebenezer Creek by Tanya Bolden. This one follows the end of the Civil War. So we have our main characters who were slaves on a plantation, and as the army kind of moves through Atlanta, they're set free. So they kind of stick with General Sherman's army and go through the march and stay with these soldiers. They still witness the racism that still exists, even though these people are there to set them free. There's still some biases. So they're experiencing that. They're experiencing their first tastes of freedom and what do they do and where do they go from there. This one was tough to read. I don't know why. It didn't keep my interest, even though I feel like this subject I was very interested in. But it was just okay. Yeah, 3 stars. It was okay. I wish I would have gotten to The Girl Who Drank the Moonlight, or The Girl Who Drank the Moon, and The War That Saved My Life, are the last 2 that are sitting kind of on my pile. I'm going to leave them there. Hopefully I get to them, because I really enjoyed having a book that I kind of just flew through. And I think that's how I got as much read as I did. Alright, so the last few that I read, I don't remember if I finished this in March or not, but end of January, beginning of March, I read Made by Stephanie Land. This follows the story of Stephanie, who made it, basically pulled herself up out of poverty. So you get really great insight into what it was like for her. She ended up becoming a maid to make a living, and I was looking for a little bit more of that side of things about being a maid, which you do get. It is interesting. She named all of her houses, which I thought was interesting. It's interesting to see the clients that treat her, or it's interesting to see how the clients treated her. Some of them truly saw her as a person. Other people never saw her. It was really great. You learned a lot. I learned a lot. Wow, I learned a lot. So, highly suggest this. And if this is making its 2nd appearance, because I don't remember, I know we talked about it last month, but I think I was still reading it. But 5 stars, read that book. It's amazing. The other book I did finish is Aman, The Story of a Somali Girl by Virginia Lee Barnes and Janice Booty. This follows Aman as she grows up in Somalia. We start when we learn about her mother and her grandmother a little bit and kind of start learning about her more in detail at the age of 9, and then as she becomes an adult and learning about how it was to grow up as a woman in Somalia. I think it was more the late 70s, early 80s is when this takes place. Really eye-opening, and how as a woman you've got nothing. It's sad. But this woman, she's flippin' strong. So flippin' strong. So this was good. Hard to read though. The next books I read, all 5 stars for me. Amazing books. I picked up The Huntress by Kate Quinn. This was for our local Barnes & Noble book club that we have. I had to read this by April 1st. This is a big book, you guys. Oh my gosh. Took some hard work to get through this in time, but it was phenomenal. This follows 3 women. We have Nina, Jordan, and Ian Graham. So 2 women and a man. So Nina grew up as one of the night witches. She was a fighter pilot that flew for the Russian army during World War II. We have Ian Graham, who was a journalist during World War II, and then once the war was over, he basically investigated and tracked down war criminals. And then we have Jordan, who is growing up in post-World War II United States in Boston with her dad. And then her dad ends up getting remarried, and yeah, there's a whole lot of mystery in here, finding the Huntress. The 3 of them end up more Nina and Ian end up teaming up to find this woman considered the Huntress, one of the most brutal kind of women from the war that was still out there. So really great read. As thick as it is, kept you engaged the entire time. Maybe a couple parts got a little slow, but not enough to make it a slow book. But you really need to pay attention. It took a lot of energy to read this book, to get and understand everything that you were learning, because it all compiles together. So fantastic read, and now I'm so stinking excited to read the Alice Network by her. I just have to. The next book club book I finished is Taylor Jenkins Reid, Maybe in Another Life. This follows Hannah. She is faced with a decision, and we get to see what happens in her life if she decides to do A, as well as if she decides to do B. It was a little more action-packed than I expected it to be. I was thinking this like slow, easy contemporary read, and there's a little more to it. It was really interesting. I loved seeing both sides of it. I don't know which life I kind of wanted her to live over the other. It was a really great read. My second Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and did not disappoint at all. She is quickly becoming an all-time favorite author of mine, that's for sure. The next book that I finished 2 nonfiction books this month. One of them I listened to, if this is going to work. So I listened to The Children's Blizzard by David Laskin. This is a really light colored book. I'm trying to not reflect it. But this follows the events of a blizzard that hit the Midwest in 1888. And why it is so impactful is it's one of the worst blizzards ever on record, with some of the coldest temperatures, the highest winds. We're not talking snow, we're talking little mini ice pellets. And the fact that the beginning of the day was a beautiful spring day, to the point where kids went to school without full heavy coats on. Granted, it was January, but no one knew enough to know what was coming, and so it hit certain parts of the Midwest at the time that kids were leaving from school. And to the point where winds were so strong and the blizzard was so bad, to walk half a mile was almost impossible, and then to have to do it as a child. So it's a really hard book to listen to, and know that this happened, and the tragedy that surrounded it, as well as there's some really, really horrific things that happened to these kids. And then on the flip side, there's a whole bunch of heroes that were able to save a bunch of lives as well. Part of it is lack of efficient communication to let these cities know how bad of a storm was on their way. It was crazy. And the science behind it, that got a little long, but because I was listening to it, it didn't bother me too much, I think. But the science behind what events had to happen in the atmosphere to allow for this horrible storm to come was interesting. Highly recommend listening to it. It was a really, really super sad book, but interesting to learn about. And then at the same time, I was reading A Mother's Reckoning by Sue Klebold. This is the living in the aftermath of a tragedy. She was the mother of Dylan Klebold, who not only took his life, but was part of the Columbine school shooting. So this book, as well as listening to the Children's Blizzard, there was a couple days there where I'm like, I just need some happiness. But this was so eye-opening. I buddy read this with Candace and Sarah, and I'm so glad I was buddy reading it, because you have to talk about it. You have to talk about it. I remember when this happened, I was a junior in high school. Oh, and from my little old town, I was just like, okay, that changed my view of going to school. So eye-opening. There's a couple of parts in here that I really liked her to say, or that she brought up. One of them, let's see, the only thing I knew for sure was that Dylan had participated in the massacre in spite of the way he had been raised, not because of it. There was so much speculation at the beginning of, blaming the parents, and this has really opened my eyes that you can have the most perfect home and the most loving atmosphere, and bad things can still happen, which we all know that, but to make sure that you're keeping that in mind when things like this happen. He was still a boy. He still had 17 years with them, that he was a wonderful kid, and they missed some signs. I can't put words to it. It's so eye-opening. Definitely worth the read. Now I'm really interested in reading Columbine. Ugh, it was good. It was good. Don't ever read the two together. That was a mistake. I should have been reading something else, but I'm glad I read them both. You know me, I like little snippets of history and to learn a little bit. I had 3 nonfictions this month. That's kind of odd for me, but really, really great book. I enjoyed it. I read this one. I didn't listen to it. I'm sure the audio would be just as fantastic. So those are all the books I read. Currently reading is nothing. I know. I am gearing up for the book list readathon that starts on April 1st. So I'm trying to make sure things are in order. I'm going to give myself a day or two to kind of just not read a little bit. I know that's odd. But that starts April 1st. I'll link my TBR video below. I hope you join us. This is super, super fun. So I already shared that. So I have a couple other books that I still have to read this month. My book club picked the book Delicious by Ruth Reichel for our, what month is it? I'm losing my mind. For our April book. Our theme for the month is food. Don't really know what this is about. I'm just going with the suggestion of the group, so I gotta do that. And then I need to read this hunker, America's First Daughter by Stephanie Dre and Laura Kamoy. This follows Patsy Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson's oldest daughter. Right. I've heard it's really great. I'm trying to get the audio because I think that might help me get through that big book. And then who knows? I don't know where I'll go from there. So I'm super excited. I love, love, love the readathon. I hope it goes well. I hope you guys join us. Leave me a comment below with what was your favorite book you read of the month, and what book are you looking forward to most to read in April. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to chat with you about that. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!